Okay, guys. So what I've been doing is in the evenings or late at night. I've still been staying up most of the night and sleep until late morning. Got to get out of that now that spring's coming. Uh, but here's my thoughts. Very general. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything, and I'm I'm mostly listening. I got two ears and one mouth, so I'm just going to share a little bit, and I'm going to listen if you guys got some thoughts on what's going on. But here's my thoughts in general. Is the coronavirus real? It. I had my doubts a week or two ago, because I'm of the notion that you. How do you know when any government official is lying? Is because their lips are moving. And they pulled so many hoaxes and they constantly lie to us. And I mean, anyone that doesn't know that at this point, I there's no hope for you. But it's kind of looking like this is the real deal. But they're using it. Well, so the cure is going to be worse than the disease, is what it's looking like to me. I'm seeing a lot of analogies of it's like the new 9/11, which, if you remember, most a lot of our freedoms and liberties got removed from us. The Constitution was circumvented. There was like over 20 security agencies created after 9/11. Everyone was kind of in shock. It was the first time Americans, uh, you know, had some catastrophe come to our doorstep in a long time. So, in a generation or two. So it's kind of looking like this is 9/11 on steroids to me. So, uh, I've been watching some of the footage from China and what it looks like to me, but I'm curious what people think. Some of it's real and some of it's staged. Some of it looks like it's like they're filming it to get us to panic, and it also looks like some of it's being filmed to kind of teach us how to deal with each other as this problem gets worse. So, I'm going to put some links below of a couple that will then branch out from there. Like, if you like the couple links I put below, there'll be lots of rabbit trails you can go on to get even more information. Uh, but yeah, it's some of it's real and some of it's staged. So there's some footage where like people are filming from 30 stories up in their high rise in Wuhan or some other big city in China, and all the power's turned off, and they've welded people into their buildings. They've put gravel up in front of the doors so people can't get out, and there's just people slowly starving to death or dying. Now, some people think this is China's reaction, or let's just say the power structure, the powers that be. This is their reaction to the Hong Kong protests and kind of like the Chinese tyrannical government that were losing control of their power. And the Chinese can be ruthless. I mean, I guess everybody can be ruthless, but they're exceptionally ruthless sometimes. And this was their reaction. They're going to round up their dissidents, and they got to do it under the guise of a pandemic. Or there really is a pandemic, and then it begs the question, was it released on purpose, or was it released on accident? So I've heard a couple theories. I don't think anyone will ever know. But there are some very credible people who are saying that this is a man-made bioweapon. Um, there have been some credible sources that have looked at the virus, and it looks like it's been injected with some other nasty properties. They call it like gain of function. Um, some people say it's been traced back to a biolab in North Carolina, I believe, and then it was sold to a biolab in China. Um, so if that's true, then this is going to be a really nasty thing to get. Um, it sounds like it's got like HIV properties. And now this is just if this is real. Like I'm not entirely convinced. I can tell you that I'm being this is what I'm doing is I'm being careful. Like I'm I'm staying home. Like I was just about to take off on my scooter for a couple weeks and just go wander and make videos and look around and love life, but I'm staying home. So uh but I don't know how serious, I guess what I'm trying to say is like I don't have my mind made up about this. I mean, I'm going to just err on the side of caution and see where this goes, but here's the other side of it is, and I know you guys have already thought about this stuff. I'm not telling anybody anything. I'm just talking here because I live here alone for the most part. I've got some friends in town and I see them occasionally, but this is kind of my way to like have this discussion with you guys, which are like, in a way like my extended family here on YouTube, which I'm very blessed to have. So, um, but the other side of it is whether we're going to look back in years from now, I guess, or maybe even months from now, and kind of see what this was all about. But one thing is for sure, and that's the media is turning up the fear factor to 11. Um, and there's got to be a reason for that. Um, there's a lot of other stuff going on while this is overshadowing. So the stock market, they're talking about going to a digital dollar. So basically like a digital currency. So a cashless society, which is bad news if you're a person that likes freedom. I mean, so if you're a Bible believer, that's basically the mark of the beast. Permission to buy and sell. There's been talk of that too, where there's basically your phone has a it'll give you like you get a download on your phone. It's like an app, and it'd be like, today you're allowed to travel. Today you're not. Oh, you said something that the powers that be don't like. They can turn you off. And so it's like, if we get away from cash, then we're stuck having to appease the people that control the ones and zeros on the other side of our technology. So I think it's a bad idea. Not that cash is perfect. And there's also, injected like over $1 trillion into the stock market, and it just keeps tanking every day. It looks like it's kind of like, for the moment, kind of settling at a bottom. But for me, so I could just go on and on about this, and maybe I will, follow up, or I'll just say more in the comments depending on where this discussion goes. But to me, this is my worldview in general. Okay, overpopulation is a real thing. There's too many people on the planet now. What can be done about that? What I think we're seeing right now is some of the late stages of a depopulation agenda. So, what I'll just generically call the elites. Okay, I'm not going to fill in the blank on that. I've got my ideas, but it just negates the discussion to go into that. But what I'll just call the elites, they are making their move to depopulate the planet. And they've used a lot of tools for a long time to do that are kind of behind the scenes. They're not direct, like, well, I won't go into those either because they get controversial. But I think what we're seeing is like, okay, all our little depopulation, agenda is not working fast enough. So this is kind of like a mass culling of humanity. If this is what it looks like it is, it's very possible. I mean, I suppose it's possible at this point that in 2 weeks, we're going to be like, everyone's popping their hatches, and what we found out is that they were basically readjusting the monetary system and keeping us freaked out and focused on some invisible, enemy while they were doing it. It's very possible that's going to happen. This kind of looks, it's a little reminiscent of like 2009 when the housing market crashed, and like basically, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like the American, our country lost like 40% of its wealth, just in a fail swoop. Um, you know, I do this too. It's like Americans are like 5 or 6% of the population of the planet, and up until very recently, like just a generation or so ago, we were like 50% of the world's wealth. I mean, we have this unprecedented lifestyle that often we don't relativize because this is the water in which we swim. This is like, the pond in which we swim, and we forget that right over the hill is like the sea, right? Which is the rest of the world and the rest of humanity. And this whole, what's happening, and I think this is very obvious, is that America's getting pulled down to a third world status. But because we're so used to having so much freedom, and in some ways taking it for granted and being entitled, everyone's guilty of that to a certain degree. Um, we're gonna be dragged kicking and screaming. A lot of this is generational too. Basically the boomer generation was this huge generation that had to be dealt with, to use that terminology, by the system differently than the generations that came after them. And now that the boomers are getting to an age where, um, they're dying just from old age and other things. It sounds like the system can kind of switch gears into a more heavy-handed approach to putting us in the new world, or what I guess we could call the new world order. So these are just some framework of where I come from when I'm thinking about these things, um, and I'm just putting it out there so that we can listen. You can call me crazy. At this point, it doesn't really bother me. For the most part, I have my worldview. It's pretty solid. It gets adjusted, but I'm the farthest thing from naive. I mean, the governments do not have our best interest at heart. Power corrupts, and we have to. This is survival. We've had it really good, and I hope we can recover from this as a country, or even let's just say the West can recover from this. But I think when it really sinks in what's going on with like mass immigration and technology, the technocracy, and now these bioplagues, weaponized flu season at bare minimum, um, things are not looking good. And so, how do I'll leave it with this: how does this bear on? Well, I'll just say people like me. Like if you're on my channel, Backwaters and Backroads, I imagine you kind of got there and stayed or subscribed because you have similar interests of what I do or how I live, which is to try to be as simple as possible, but not so simple that you don't have a enjoyable life. Um, and how's that going? How is this going forward going to bear on people that just want to kind of be left alone? And live simple little lives and look around and kind of, get fulfillment from adventures and travel and boating and scootering and, all the things in between. That's a really good question. Right now, I would be heading out to Oregon to fetch my next boat, basically. But I'm too freaked out to get on the roads because what if just some cop pulls you over and like overnight when you're at a truck stop, some press conference happened and it's like we're rounding up everyone that isn't home. I mean, it's got it. The color of law is almost saying that now, that like, well, we're just kind of suggesting you shelter down and stay home. Um, but that suggestion can become a demand really easily from an authority. And that's on top of whether this virus is as bad as the media is making it out to be. And I don't want to go out in the world and be getting gas and, uh, catch it. So that's where I'm at. I'm hunkering down. I'm just trying to stay productive and also just paying attention and trying to look through the spin of the media and decide who's credible and who isn't. But for the most part, I haven't trusted the mainstream media in a long time. So, okay, guys, about 15 minutes in this. Hopefully that just gives a framework of maybe a discussion we could have, because I want to know what you guys are thinking out there. My channel has got like 2,000 subscribers, which is possibly 2,000 people I could like access and get your take on it. So if you're interested, leave a comment, and I'm going to watch those comments and try to respond to as many as I possibly can. Okay, thanks guys. I'll catch you later.